What if tomorrow just a memo came out that said, in order to wholesale, you have to be licensed? Mm-hmm. How would that change your business, right? Oregon, right now, you can actually go to prison over wholesaling. Some people that are listening to this, they may say, I don't need it. I'm not in South Carolina. I'm not in Pennsylvania. I understand that, but don't be late to the game. It's not where the puck is, it's where the puck's going. I think that more wholesalers are going to be required to take the deal down and, quote, be licensed. We have a solution for both those.
Hey everybody, thank you for joining us for today's episode of Disruptors. Today we have Cory Boatright and Chris Eyeman with Takedown Funding. Cory did fly in from Oklahoma City, and Chris is obviously another local legend in the Phoenix market. And we're going to be talking about how to use money to defeat the real estate laws. Now guys, I'm on a mission to create 100 millionaires. The information on this show alone is enough to help you become a millionaire. If you take consistent action, you will become one. And guys, if you get value out of the show, please hit that subscribe button. That way we can all grow together. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So right now is an interesting environment in the real estate market.
Right.
I think just this past week, I heard something got passed in Pennsylvania. There are things happening in North Carolina. And obviously there was that big hoopla with South Carolina. And I think probably Oklahoma is where it all started. It was Oklahoma or Chicago?
Right in Oklahoma. Yeah.
Oklahoma is where it all started, so it might be your fault that we had this problem, right?
Tornadoes and regulation, my fault.
Right? So let's talk about this regulatory environment. Like, what has gone on the last few months?
Well, I think obviously South Carolina's made the biggest move, right?
Right.
So just not being able to market a property while you have it under contract. And, I mean, we all know that there's educators across the country, and every educator that I know says this is where you start, right? This is the easiest entry. So obviously that changes everything, right?
Right. Yeah. Buy houses with no money.
Yeah.
Right. That's I mean, I don't know when that started, but as far as I can remember, like I think the earliest I've heard is the Carlton Sheets.
Right.
Yeah. Right. No money down. And buying houses, no money down. So yeah. So that started there. So like, you know, what do you think? How did we get here, I guess, with the regulatory situation?
Well, there's good wholesalers and bad wholesalers, right? And unfortunately, the ones that are bad make the good ones look bad too, unfortunately. Right. And, there's just an opportunity right now for someone to come in and be able to, work in this real estate environment where they can, like Chris said, they don't really need a whole lot of money to come in and just basically put a house under contract. Right? And they have no money to do it, right? So there's no risk, and they can turn around and sell that contract, or they assign that contract. And that's been going on for many years, right?
Right.
Well, what's happened is some of those wholesalers aren't closing on those deals. And you and I both know some of those probably guys have done that, right? And they we blackball them, right? But really that was just like small amount like of the marketplace that was kind of being affected by that. But as wholesaling's growing bigger and bigger, and more education around it, and more people are focusing on this wholesaling operation, it's just easier for these wholesalers to start doing bad practices. And when these bad practices are starting to stack up, then now National Association of Real Estate's coming in and saying like, hey, we already got slapped with a big lawsuit, right? We don't want to lose any more commissions to you guys.
Right.
We want you now to be licensed, which wasn't a requirement necessary before.
Yeah.
We also want you to own the deal, own the house, before you can turn around and market it to somebody else. You can't just put a house under contract and then send out that and say, oh, I'm not buying the house. I'm assigning my paper.
Right.
If it looks like a duck, it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, they're saying it's a duck.
Yeah.
And, so there's where we got today is where everyone's kind of doing this like easy way to assign properties, which I'm a fan of wholesaling in that regard. But whenever you don't close on transactions, whenever you are taking advantage of people in situations that you shouldn't, and you have bad practices, you have no core values, you're just going to have those people that come in that don't have values and they just want to make money. It's all about money. We all seen these guys that throw hundreds in the air and like they're at a strip club or something. They just closed on a real estate deal, right?
Yeah.
And gold chains and like they're just making everyone kind of look bad in that industry. And it's not a bad industry, but you take a couple of bad apples and that's all it takes to make it look bad.
And it's funny because like remember like there are a lot of people that are in our industry in the wholesaling world who they thought to get started as a real estate investor had to get licensed. I always laugh like, no, you don't have to get licensed. It's ridiculous.
Right.
Well, I guess now you kind of have to get licensed. And it's also going to be interesting to see what happens, right? Because like we had Jerry Norton on the show. We've had Devin Robinson with Installment Method on the show. And like, it's interesting to see what's going on with Pennsylvania because what they're talking about is you have to get licensed, right?
And disclose. Yeah.
And disclose.
Disclose it's a wholesale deal.
Yeah.
Right? Which is fine, whatever, right? We've always disclosed on the wholesaling side. What's interesting is when you have to get licensed and what happens after you get licensed. Because like what we're seeing in South Carolina is like you have to get licensed, right? But now the Department of Real Estate is regulating what you can do as a wholesaler.
Right.
And if they're regulating it, I don't think they're going to operate in the wholesaler's best interest.
Right.
That's not my theory, at
Yeah.
least.
Right.
So we'll see what happens there. So
yeah, the days of maybe you thinking you're going to get $100,000 or $200,000 rip on a wholesale deal, if you're licensed, may be coming to the end. Really quickly.
Yeah, exactly. And then, so are you paying attention to exactly what happened in Pennsylvania?
You know, as much as I can. I mean, you know, unless you're actually there and seeing what's going on with lobbyists. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to basically look at what I call copy legislation. And you know, we talked about that before in South Carolina. If it's working in South Carolina, and I think they're going to see it's going to, they're just basically going to push that through. And that only took like 4 or 5 months from start to finish for that to happen. Right. Where now you have to be licensed and you have to own that property before you can market it to make money on it.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're seeing this evolution here. And I guess maybe I'm getting a little early here, but like, you know, just to take a quick step back on the journey of wholesaling, right? Because I don't even know when wholesaling became a word. Yeah. I don't know if it was common. So you've been doing this since what, 99?
Yeah.
Right? Like, was wholesaling the word that they were using in 99?
No, I don't even think I was like, I think I was a wholesaler before the word wholesaling existed.
Right.
Yeah, I was literally, I'd buy an auction house step and I would dial for dollars and be like, I bought it for 100, you can have it for 103. Bring the 3 in cash, you know?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So do you remember like exactly when wholesaling became a word?
I don't actually, I mean, what was it? Nouveau Riche, I think, was in this town.
Yeah, Nouveau Riche was here, yeah.
Yeah, I think
with Steve,
around...
oh, man. Steve Tappan, I think, was the guy.
I think 05?
Yeah.
That's kind of, I think that's my piece of where it started, but I mean, I could be wrong.
Yeah, I remember Nouveau Riche. I mean, he was driving around with his Hummer, right? Recruiting all of us to like, hey, send them to my event. You know, it was like 25, 30K, and then I'll give you something, right?
Yeah.
And that was that
affiliate.
Yeah, and I was that kid. I was like, that's a ripoff, right? Looking back, that really was the only option to get started because there weren't these podcasts, there wasn't YouTube. Sean Terry was not around yet,
right? He just
there were gatekeepers information at that time, so it really was not that bad an investment. But in my mind, as a young kid at that point, I was like, that sounds like a scam.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, so like wholesaling, right, really didn't become a word, right, until sometime around there.
Yeah.
Right.
That's my guess. That's when I
pretty
first,
close.
yeah,
Within
it's
a
coming
year
across.
or two. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
So then you go back. So you break it down. So how did it, you know, you look at this industry, and this might be, you know, boring for some people. I don't know. But my understanding is like we were always just flippers, right? Like going back, what would you do? You would just buy the property from the homeowner, flip it, and throw it in MLS. Would you guys agree with that? Most business owners waste their time and money on solutions that never fix the root problems. They'll address all the symptoms due to slow revenue, and because they're only fixing the consequences, the real problem stays hidden and the cycle of wasting time and money continues. It's like having a lingering headache that won't go away despite trying every over-the-counter medicine. When in reality, you should have just gone to the doctor and had them figure out exactly what was causing the headache. And that's what's so difficult about business. You can see and feel the symptoms and yet struggle to find it. Now imagine you can find a prescription that doesn't just mask the symptoms, but actually addresses the root cause. Where would your business be if you addressed that right now? That's what our sales event is about. Your marketing doesn't suck, your leads aren't bad, and your operations aren't terrible. It's that you haven't addressed what actually makes you money in wholesale, which is the conversations you have with homeowners. It's critical that you build trust with sellers, demonstrate that you fully understand their situation, know exactly what's keeping them up at night, and paint the ideal outcome that leads them to a better future by working with you. That's what it takes to get signed contracts and keep your business going. Simply put, at our event, you'll walk away with the framework, phrases, questions, documents, and process to close more sales and buy more houses. Join the hundreds of others who
who have come to our live event and dramatically grown their business. Our event is happening soon and is available for you to join only if you're willing to take the pill.
In about 2003, I was actually buying foreclosure steps, and then I partnered with the guys that buy easy foreclosure. Mm-hmm. So in like 2002-3, we were emailing to our distribution list. We had the back cover of the real estate magazine.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah. and then we were strictly just a wholesaler, but we'd buy at the auction.
Like AFG funding or whatever.
Yeah, AFG,
Yeah, I remember seeing those magazines. Right. So, but that was later on. But like initially, it was just like the home investor guys, right? The We Buy Ugly Houses.
Right.
They were just straight buying the
Buy
houses,
the property, take it
flip
down.
it,
Yep.
and then sell it on the MLS, right?
Right.
And then somewhere, someone got wise. Maybe Carlton Sheets. Someone got wise. Like, oh, I could just sell it to a flipper and get some money. And I think this is me going back to real estate school because I wasn't around at this point, right? It's just things I learned in real estate school. My understanding is if Cory got this contract and he sold the contract to me, like we have these wholesale fees now, right? $10,000, $15,000, $100,000, right? Then that's on the settlement statement. But back then, again, this is what I learned in real estate school. I don't know how accurate this is.
Paid after closing.
I just gave you $500 cash,
or before
and you
closing.
signed the contract
Right.
over me,
Sure.
right? And that was what bird dogging was,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I guess you started as a bird dogger. Which one you guys started?
I
As
started as a bird dog.
So you want to explain the history of bird dogging?
Sure. So I would just go out and find, literally drive for dollars.
Mm-hmm.
I'd find properties that looked dilapidated, run down, high weeds, your broken windows, whatever, and write down that address. And I found an investor that was buying, I thought at the time was buying the houses. Actually, he was wholesaling those houses. When I found out what to do, I turned into a wholesaler as well. But I would give them to him, and I made like $300, $500, $1,000, like if he ended up closing it.
Right.
And then he'd give me $10 for just every single one. So I was just like trying to get like $100 a day. I was like, I want to do $100 a day.
Yeah.
And that was wholesaling. I mean, that was bird dogging.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, at some point, bird dogging was, again, my understanding was you would just bring me the deal.
Just bring you the address.
Like, bring me the address.
Right.
I'll talk to the homeowner. And then if I buy it, I'll just kick you off $500.
Kick me off the money. Yep.
Right.
That was it.
And then at some point, someone got wise. Like, why am I only getting $500?
Yeah.
That
When
was
I get-
me. That was.
Right.
Yeah.
$5,000 or $10,000. And I'll just source the deal and sell it to flippers.
Right.
And then what's even more interesting, because you've done a lot in the co-wholesaling world,
Forever. Yeah.
right? How long were you co-wholesaling?
I've been co-wholesaling, I'd say since about 2003. Like we built the buyers list, and we were wholesaling the foreclosures. But then, there was as these guys, Alan Robinson. I don't know if you remember.
I remember Alan.
Yeah, Alan was out there. They were just blanketing direct to seller stuff with the letters and all that. And then I just became their dispo company, right? So, that was a kind of a transition. And, they were making some great rips. I mean, 30 grand, 35 grand. And I was just getting the $5,000 a transaction, but still it was, hey, it's 5,000, put an email together, send it out,
Right.
$5 grand.
$5,000.
Yeah. So you said 2003 you started doing that?
Yeah.
So co-wholesaling's been around for a long time.
Long time. 21
Right.
years.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's you, right? And then you got the Keegley franchises, right? You got
Yep.
Jamil and them. You got Stu Denyer with New Western.
Right. New Western.
You got Net Worth, and there was
Mark
Property
over there.
Force,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? You got Property Force, formerly Property Force,
Yeah.
right? And then before that, like those three guys was funny. It's like they all met together.
Yeah.
It was like Real Deal or Real Net or something like that. Like
Yeah. They're in Florida, I guess.
all,
That's
yeah,
tough, yeah.
right? So like that co-wholesaling space has been around for a while. So I'm bringing this up, just going down memory lane here, right?
Yeah.
So you were the flipper, and then eventually brought in a bird dogger, and then eventually added wholesalers, right? And we're just chopping this up some more. And then eventually we add co-wholesalers, which I guess you are the pioneer. It's like your fault that we have all these JV guys.
Jeez.
Well, it's just like
Thanks,
you built the dispo database, like you might as well get paid for it, right?
Oh, absolutely, right? So now we got, all these different pieces here.
Right.
And now with the way things are going in 24, and I really think started when in Oklahoma it's like 22, right? Or 21.
Right. 20. No. It was in 22. Yeah.
22, right? So like now regulations pushing back against wholesaling, and now
Right.
we're getting to a point now where we're pushing back against potentially the co-wholesaling, and then maybe in a couple of years, wholesaling,
Right.
right? And so then you really only have two options, right? And those two options brings us all the way back to where we were 20 plus, I guess now like 25 plus years ago, where you just have to be the buyer.
What if, and you bring up a good point, what if tomorrow just a memo came out that said, in order to wholesale, you have to be licensed?
A lot of people are going to be impacted.
How would that change your business, right? How would that change your business? And so that thought is there. The other thought is they're already moving that direction where not only they want you licensed, but now they want you to own the deal,
right?
To market it, right? And so there's a lot of investors that are really great investors, and there's a lot of wholesalers that are really great wholesalers, and they're great marketers. And we know in this business, especially in wholesaling operation, like 30% or more often is the marketing, right? Like you can spend a lot of money on marketing. We're just talking about like one deal on paper lead in Florida was getting up to like $500, $600 a lead.
Yep.
Before you even see the house address, you just, here's $600, right? It's not sustainable for some people. Some people like, oh, I've got a big budget of $100,000, that's okay. But a lot of wholesalers don't have that budget. They might have a budget of $5,000 or $10,000, maybe a little bit more, but they don't have that budget, right? And so we want to be able to have a solution if they need to wholesale their deal and they can't assign it anymore and they, quote, have to be licensed and they're neither. What do you do? But they got a great deal. They negotiated it, which they're great at. They got it under contract with a great deal. We all know what a great deal is, and not 90 cents on the dollar. You know, if you're a good wholesaler, you know what the great deal is. But you got to be able to dispo that deal legally, right? What do you do? And so that's where the idea of takedown funding came in.
And I think a great deal today might be different than it was a couple months ago, and it might be very
100%.
different than where it'll be in 3 months.
Sure.
Right? Because if you can't market the property to wholesale it, a great deal underwrites very, very differently.
It does. And also the dispo side of it too, Steve. So like, let's say, you know, you're used to selling to cash buyers only, right? Which Chris has an amazing network. You have there's a lot of people that have great networks of cash buyers. But when you get on the MLS, now you're talking to a retail buyer. You're talking to what I want to call the HDTV buyers, right? They aren't necessarily the most, quote, educated of, I'm buying 4 rentals every 3 weeks, and I know what my return on investment is, and they know all these terms like, you know, NOI and all these other things. No, they're just like, yeah, and cash flow. They're just like, I like it because it's near mom. I like the house because it has a nice swing set in the front, and you know, it's near my sister. Or I like the school district.
Right.
So those buyers will pay. They tend to pay more money.
Right.
The other thing is now you bring a house that's off market on market, right? And so now you have an ability to basically add inventory, and so those retail buyers will pay more. So why I'm saying that is because whenever you're working with takedown funding, now you're actually considering, wait a minute, I get to put this on the MLS, right? Which then technically could basically yield you another 10, 15% more profit.
Right. So talking about like, so how we got here, right? So now that, you know, what are the marketing restrictions? And it varies state by state.
It does.
But, you know, versus where we were, you know, last year, like the only, like you have to get licensed, right? That already existed in Oklahoma, Chicago, or no, state of Illinois, right?
Yeah.
And then the city,
a certain amount, but you have to go through a broker.
Right. The city of Philadelphia, right? Not the entire PA, but now PA is getting interesting, right? So like there were already areas where you had to get licensed.
Right.
What are the additional restrictions that we've seen in the last few months and in upcoming?
Well, I mean, it's just gonna. I think the restrictions are, like you said, the copy legislation. It's just gonna keep coming. I mean, I think every state's gonna have some kind of registration.
Right. Too. Well, what specific hurdles are they putting in the way of the wholesalers?
Marketing, for one, they want you to own the property in order to market it. Right. And so you can't just like, well, I'm assigning my contract. Yes, you can assign a contract, but you can't make money from signing the contract. You can assign it to mom, dad, an LLC or whatever, but making money from it is where they're drawing the line. And the other thing is you're marketing a property that you don't own. You're still in violation, right? So you might be able to find a buyer, but you don't own that property. So technically, they're going to call you a wholesaler because you're marketing a property that you don't own. And then on top of that, now you're not licensed, right? And so just on the marketing aspect of things, it's calling it to a public marketplace. So what's a public marketplace? A little gray. If you have your own email list, is that a public marketplace? Some people would say, no, it's my own private email list. New Western, obviously, they have a big network of a platform.
Massive private list.
Is that a private network? is kind of gray. But if I market it out there to Facebook Marketplace,
It's done.
you're done. You're over with. And you see a lot of wholesalers utilize some of these quote free or public forums to be able to market, right? And that's done. It's over with whenever these regulations come to your state.
And it's just going to change the deal. Like to your point about where the pricing is. I mean, how many of us looked at it and been like, yeah, I can't get them any lower, but it's right there, right?
Close, yeah.
And we lock it up and send it out. Just test the water. I mean,
Yeah.
we've all done
it. We've all done it.
Countless times. Maybe too many times.
Yeah.
Right.
And now you can't do that anymore.
Right.
So now you're going to really have to like your deal.
Yes.
Yeah. You have to really
Good
underwrite
point.
it well. Now, what would, because I see this a lot on Facebook, particularly in Alex's group, Wholesaling Houses.
Wholesaling Houses full time. Yeah.
Right.
Good
well,
dude, Alex. Love Alex.
Fantastic dude. If you can just put it in his ear to freaking come out here. Anyway,
Come on, Alex. Come on the show.
I see a lot in that Facebook group. Like, well, just double close it.
Yeah.
So what do you say to someone who says just double close it?
Well, my attorney that I work with in Oklahoma actually wrote some a really interesting piece about this. You can Google it, and it's about double closing. And double closing is fantastic because effectively you can say, well, I sold a property that I owned, right? Because to actually double close, also called simultaneous close, is you have to be on the deed for maybe 5 minutes, but you're on the deed, right? A to B, B to C, right? Versus like just assigning where it's like A to B, you sign up and then you assign it over to somebody else, your contract. Well, on double closing, you actually broke chain of title. You're on the deed, right? Well, that in itself, you can say, well, I sold a house that I own, but how did you get your buyer?
Right.
You had to market to find your buyer, right? And that's the piece that they're still focusing on, is that you still marketed to find a buyer in a house. And the other question is, I was talking to an attorney. He said, when did you close on the transaction? Did you have a buyer already in line? No, typically you have to sign it up, then go market to find the buyer. So you're basically marketing a house that you don't own to find a buyer, even though you double closed on it and quote, you owned it for 5 minutes and turned around and sold
Right.
it.
And that's the big key, right? Did you market the property before you were the owner?
That's right.
Right. And you got people that say, well, you have to prove it. It's like the one thing, because we've been in this business for far too long, perhaps, right? And some things I've said before on this podcast, like you haven't been in business long enough if you haven't been sued.
Right. 100%.
Right? So you've been sued,
100%.
right? You've been sued
Multiple times.
right?
Yeah.
It happens, right? But do I want to sit there in front of a judge and say, well, yeah, like I double closed on it, and when they ask, well, did you market it? Can you prove to us you didn't market it prior to owning it? You have like pretty clear paper trail.
You're on oath, right? Are you either going to lie or tell the truth? That's what it's going to come down to.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I've always been like, if you get to the point where you're getting served, or you're having a government agency knock on you, I don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah, I want to back away from that. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, like I love gray area, right? I thrive in gray, right? Dark gray, right? Where it's like pencil gray, right? But once you're stepping on the black, that is where you get in trouble. So,
and there's always someone looking for, and we heard this right in a convention that we were, in a mastermind. Like there's always someone that they're trying to make an example of. Right? You don't want to be the guy that they want to make an example of.
yeah, there's always the first guy they want to crucify.
Yeah.
Right. And the other thing you see a lot of is like, but Cory, I have equitable interest in this property.
Sure.
So
Yeah,
what do your attorney have to say about those?
Well, equitable interest it basically qualifies, and we talked to two South Carolina attorneys that have done thousands of transactions between them, okay, because South Carolina is an attorney state, and they qualify equitable interest as wholesaling, right? No. So it doesn't matter. You're assigning your interest effectively, right? It just doesn't matter.
Okay, so you saw this regulation, right? It's coming down the pike. And then you guys decided, hey, let's do something about this. Right? Now, I'm an entrepreneur. You're an entrepreneur. You're an entrepreneur. We get paid. The amount we get paid is directly tied to the size of the problems that we're solving.
Absolutely.
Right? So you guys saw an opportunity. What was the opportunity that you guys saw?
There are two types of salespeople out there. There are the convincers and there are the sales professionals. For the first 9 years of my career, I was the convincer. Convincers are always out there trying to convince people to meet with them and buy from them. Their strategy is to try to push hard and never take no for an answer. And by focusing on this strategy, I spent a lot of time on cold calling, the next marketing gimmick, features and benefits, how they and their company are the best, following up until the prospect buys or dies. All of this requires time and energy. The problem isn't the model itself, it's that their approach pushes prospects away. And this is the same exact thing that happened to me before I figured out the close more sales formula. The solution? Sell customers exactly what they want to buy. That's right, I said it. We sell customers exactly what they want to buy. Because I would rather get an easy sale with a happy customer instead of a difficult sale from a customer who felt sold. No thanks. I did that before and it sucks. So here's the deal. I explain everything in the Close More Sales course. It's an 11-module course that shows you everything you need to know to close more sales. The best part, you can use this in any industry, not just real estate. So no matter what you're selling and to who you're selling to, this formula will lead to easier sales. Go to closemoresales.com/sales masterclass. One word, closemoresales.com/sales masterclass.
Well, Cory reached out to me and he's like, did you see the South Carolina deal? He's like, are you worried about your operation? And I'm laying on. I think he's texting me at like 11:30 at night.
You're in the Bahamas or something.
I'm like, not really. I go, I think it'll take, Phoenix is like the hub of wholesaling, right? I'm like, I think it'll take a few of the players out of the game. I think I'll like actually make a little bit more money. So I actually think I might like it. So I'm like, no, I'm not afraid. And he's like, and he's sitting there going like, well, how do we make the other guys not afraid? I'm like, I go, and to the co-wholesaling point, I've always co-wholesaled, and how I get some of my bird dogs that I pay more than $500 is I offer them their earnest money, right? So that's been like, someone takes Jamil's course or somebody's course, and then they're just like, hey, I want to do this, and you can tell they got the good sales skills and all that, and I'm like, hey, you just go find the deals. I'll put up all your earnest money. So he's just like, let's think about this some more. And he's like, keeps digging and digging and digging. And he's like, why don't we just partner with all these wholesalers in South Carolina? We provide the money and we get a piece of the action.
Right.
And then he just ran.
So what did you see out of this?
Well, I remember, Steve, back in, and you may remember this too, but I really delve in 2009, 8, 9, 10, 11 on short sales. I really focused heavily on it. And I remember during that time, we all done those, right?
Like we are the old dogs here.
We are the old dogs. But I created a course, sold 2,500 courses. Short sale fundamentals was the name of the course.
Yeah.
Created a short sale software, had almost 5,000 users paying $99 a month called Short Sale Builder. Had a foreclosure mitigation and consulting business, hired a senior loss mitigator. Like I delve in.
Yeah.
Right. And I remember the reason I bring that up to be relevant to your question is because I remember at that time there's a thing called transactional funding, or at the time it's actually called one-day funding. And our good friend and my best friend Jason Medley had a company called iVisionary, and he was doing transactional funding back then. Basically, it was just you wire the money in to pay for the A to B because we didn't have the money, right? So you still wanted to make the deal happen because you made $20,000, $30,000 in the back end, but you might have to pay a couple of points to wire that money in. But guess what? You didn't have to come up with the money.
Right.
And you had transactional funding. And that was great for the transactional funder because he could wire it in and in an hour make 2 or 3 points, make 2 or 3 grand.
Yeah.
So it worked for everybody. But that model, I remember seeing it whenever short sales started to kind of ramp up. And I was like, man, that is going to get big. I saw the writing on the wall, right? Fast forward till today. I think that's the same thing that I'm seeing right now with regulations. I think that more wholesalers are going to be required to take the deal down and, quote, be licensed. We have a solution for both those, which is pretty awesome to be able to do that. And I think that it's just going to escalate. I think that more states are going to require that. And so we want to be able to have that solution now and get in now. And that's what I did when short sales, nobody was really doing short sales, Steve, and whenever I got in.
Yeah.
And it started to ramp up, and then everybody and their dog was started to do a transactional funding. I mean, I saw more and more people. You saw it here in Arizona all over the place. It was like transactional funding. Yeah, and Chris, right? Right. I mean, it was a big deal. So I think the opportunity is seeing, it's not where the puck is, it's where the puck's going.
Right.
And that's where.
And why'd you reach out to Chris?
Chris is someone I trust. Someone's been a part of the mastermind group that I'm part of with CG and you and all of us are with Medley, founding that group back in 2010-ish.
Yeah.
I've been a founder, member of that for 13 years now. Chris has been in there for probably 7 years plus.
Yeah, for 2017.
I trust Chris. I know that he is also really familiar with managing a fund. You know, $70 million, $100 million fund,
60.
not smaller number, 60 million. And I also really appreciate his ability to take action and also his insights onto where it can go quickly. So whenever I started to share where I thought this could go, he could escalate it and take it to that next level too. It's like, hey, if we can get to X amount of loans, we can just sell this to Goldman. Right. Which was, that's the idea that I'm excited about, is that taking this idea and then really getting it, growing it, and then been able to have an exit strategy.
Yeah. And I think a key point here, right? Because like Chris, again, like one of my first deals, one of my very first wholesale deals, right? I wholesaled it to my cousin.
Okay.
Right. Because he was like, I quit in 2007. He quit shortly thereafter. Like we both had good engineering jobs, right? I went the realtor route. He went the flipper route. And then eventually he became a wholesaler. And you know Wayne, right?
Yeah.
Right. And so I got this deal and I was like, what do I do with it? So I wholesaled it to my cousin, right? And I look at the settlement statement and I was like, who's this other guy? That's Chris.
That's Chris.
Right? So he wholesaled it to Chris, right? So he paid me 11 and he made 17. I was like, wait a minute, I left money on the table here. Right? So obviously, you know, Chris has a strong reputation, been around, again, like a big player in the Phoenix market. But on top of all that, you have access to a lot of money. Right. Yeah. I imagine that was probably part of the consideration.
Sure.
In starting Takedown Funding.
100%. And he had the great relationships with people that have money too, right? And so, you know, I wanted to make sure that if he didn't have to buy into that vision, right? He's seen a lot of people pitch him a lot of different things. But I could see, one, we kind of think alike, which I like that. Two, as I could see some wheels turning with him on the conversations that where this could go, right? And we both, I think, agree that we're ahead of the game. Yeah. Like, I think there's going to be more people come out with takedown funding and it's going to be knocked off. But I think we're ahead of the game. If we can get in front now, and we're in Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Oklahoma. Yeah. We have the ability, from how we have this structured, to have complete all the states in the United States to be able to do deals as we start to ramp up. Yeah. And with being licensed in those states to be able to do those and having a lot of those other advantages, that's going to take other people, I think, a little bit to catch up to. Right. Plus, with the structure, with the model, how we have it laid out right now, it's the first of its kind, Steve, for 100%.
Well, so hang on. We'll get to that in a second, right? Okay, so you see a problem. You talk to Chris, right? You guys are texting. Yeah. You say, hey, like, there's a problem here. Wholesalers are going to need money, right? That's basically what it is, right? So I'm a wholesaler, and let's say I'm in South Carolina. Yep. And I see this legislation that's been officially signed now, I think about a month or two, right? I've got a deal.
Yeah, since January, I think it came in. Well,
it came in, but like it was officially signed, I want to say a month or two by the governor, right? So now I've got this deal, right? And, you know, we talked about installment method on a previous episode with Devin. And with you guys, I've got this property and I can't market it, so I need to own it. Right. Right? So how does this work? Do I reach out to you? What am I doing here?
Well, there's just an application online, but just, you know, this has been my model the entire time. Bring me a deal. I can underwrite the deal, and I'll just co-wholesale it with you, right? Yeah. It's just the same thing. It's just twisted just a little bit. So, I mean, this has been my model for 20 years. So that was like, this is what I've been doing. So like, let's do it.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you had a lot of success. I mean, again, we talked about your history, but even during COVID, you had a lot of success with the funds.
Oh, for sure.
right? Like people were sending you deals left and right for you to underwrite for the funds,
Yeah.
right? So you have a lot of practice
Yeah.
underwriting, right? Okay, so
They call it the human MLS. I was asking him, like, how do you stay organized on things? He's like, it's mostly my head. I'm like, that's impressive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. Little battery. I'm thinking I should probably get one.
So I got a deal. I submit it through you guys' software, website, right? Put in the details,
Right.
and then you guys underwrite the deal,
Correct.
right? And from there, you guys say yay or nay,
Right.
right?
Yep.
Okay, so then, all right, so I got this deal. I send it to you. You approve it, right? What are the next steps after that?
We just approve it, and it goes straight to our TC. We order an inspection. We order insurance. We create docs. Pretty much ready to go.
So from there, it's clear to close,
Yeah.
right? So like, it's not bank statements. It's not driver's license. It's not pay stubs, right? Credit check. None of this stuff. It's just underwriting the property specifically. And you said you'll do 100%, right? Which is
First of its kind.
right, which is crazy, right? Like 100% financing is not normal for the general public, right?
Correct.
Like you do enough deals, you can get relationships, you can get private money, right? You can get certain hard money lenders to be flexible with their terms, with your track record.
Right.
But at this point, you're talking about anybody that's listening right now, you get 100% financing
On approved deals. Yeah.
on approved deals.
That's right.
Okay, so then I guess a follow-up question directly for those guys is like, what are the kind of terms as part of the agreement?
You want to go? Trang?
Sure. So we make it as, boilerplate as possible, but obviously different states, different situations there. But after it's approved, green light, we basically have the home inspection. That's usually like a $300 fee.
Yep.
There's a $1,250 flat fee they have, and then they have their what we call our option fee. There's first basically 30 days. So we're allowing them. Most wholesalers will get rid of a deal, wholesale a deal, assign a deal, in whatever terminology you want to use, within about 30 to 60 days. Would you say that's true?
Yeah.
Sometimes,
if it's more than 60 days, you're doing something wrong.
if it goes over 60 days, it might be concerning, right?
Right, it has to be a title issue. Otherwise, why is this happening?
Yeah.
We allow you 90.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
allow you 90 days, right? Now, after 90 days, if you haven't got that deal done, we're taking it over.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you've basically said you can't do it. We're going to go ahead and take it from there. So we have a new model where we're partners with you in this deal, Steve. We're partners with you. So we take, if you make more money on the back end, we make more money. So we get 20% of that deal. You get 80% of that deal.
Yeah.
Right? And we are basically taking a point every 30 days. And that's just a great incentive for you to get rid of what I call hot potato. I always call wholesaling hot potato because you get it and you got to get rid of it. You got a certain timeline, you need to get rid of it. So it's the same thing here. We want you to get rid of that deal. We want to make sure that you're going to make money. And the more money you make, we're incentivized and mutually to be able to profit with you.
Right.
So we're your partners. We don't want to just have a date with you and be like, that was good, bad date. We want to have a relationship. We really want to be your partner. And we're also asking other people to recommend people over to our services. And we have a program we're talking to you about, which is, we want to be able to help more people offer solutions, solution-based, situations here with wholesalers, which right now they just don't have any.
Yeah.
If they have to prove all these different bank statements, as you said, or maybe put 20% down, or all these other things they typically would have to do, it's just not something out there that exists right now that is exciting for us to be able to offer.
So I just want to make sure I understand. So inspection, which is not unreasonable.
Right.
A doc fee, which is normal in Phoenix, but cheap, my understanding, everywhere else in the country.
Yeah, cheap compared to like Florida.
Yeah. Right. I mean,
Flat fee, 12.
flat fee, and then a point a month, and then 80-20 split. And I've had so many people that is like, hey, I want to become a lender in Phoenix. And my answer every time was like, I want to get into Phoenix and start lending. I was like, good luck. Because I don't know how anyone makes money as a lender here in Phoenix. They're basically giving the money away.
Yeah, it's just it's a volume game. I've had multiple. There's a guy in CG that's like, hey, I'm gonna come start up I'm going to come start and be a lender in Phoenix. And I'm like, you're charging points. It won't work.
It won't work in Phoenix. I don't know why there's so much money here, but yeah, anytime someone's like, I charge points, like, well, good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck in Phoenix.
Wow.
Right? But in other parts of the country, $1,250 is freaking cheap, right?
Yeah.
You might even want to look at that for other states. But anyway, 80-20 is also incredibly fair because, like, my beginning of my journey, right? Like, when I started buying houses, taking more properties down, I want to say in 2012, I was taking more and more properties down. Had to get money from friends and family. And maybe I was just being completely naive at that point, I was just doing 50-50, right?
Yep.
You fund 100% of the deal. I don't make any payments. And at the end, we split everything 50-50, right? And they were happy with that deal. And I got to do all the work.
Right.
Right? So, yeah, 80-20 seems incredibly fair if you're funding 100% of the deal.
Yeah. And they just got to pay their option fee 1% a month, which is just paying our lender, right?
Right.
Because they're putting out the cash for us through my relationships, right?
Right.
Yeah. A point a month is, again, it's not crazy because you look at, I believe in most states it's 2 and 12.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yeah.
2 points,
2 and 12.
12%,
Yep.
right? It's pretty common. So,
Right.
like, really, you're just
Some
the same
places
thing
3
here.
and 12.
Yeah. Wild. Like, I'm just spoiled by Phoenix.
Right.
Right? So 2 and 12 is pretty common. So you're not even charging the 2, and then the point a month is basically 12. And you guys don't have what's the word? So you guys have 90 days. Like, I remember the very first time I used a hard money lender, and like, hey, your 6-month lock is expired. I was like, what the hell do you mean? And they're like, yeah, like, if you want another 6 months,
Give us a point.
give us. Well, it wasn't even just give us a point. Like,
No,
we have to
it was more than
re-underwrite
that.
the
It was
deal.
cut some blood in.
And I was like, what the hell is this about, right? And so, like, you guys don't have, like, or it's not unusual. Like, 3 months really is a pretty fair amount of time. If you're buying the deal right, you should be able to move it fast enough in less than 3 months.
Sure.
Yeah.
Also, remember, we talked about this in the beginning. They're putting it on the MLS, right? They have an agent either on their side, but we're going to get an agent that represents us. We're owning that deal, right?
Right.
So the way that we're doing that is they get an option to be able to market that, right? That's a benefit. Somebody's telling me, well, I don't own it. Well, you don't want to own it in this situation. Let me tell you why.
Yeah.
Because if you did own it, we would have to charge you $2,500. Because if we have to take that deal back and we have to go through foreclosure and all this other stuff, we have to charge some consideration for that up front, right? We hope it doesn't happen, but we all know that things can happen, right? Otherwise, this model, we own the deal already.
Right.
We can just simply take it on. We already know how to dispo. We already know about wholesaling. We already know, this deal. You're already trying to make a profit, but if we can't get that deal done in 90 days, guess what? We got it at the A to B price. We can liquidate it. It's going to be very minimal risk, if any, right, to be able to do it. So we really want to look at that wholesaler as a partner to do the deal, but we also want to make sure that they're communicating with us too. Like, we underwrote the deal. So one of us, it's like, we thought it was a good deal, right? So what's happening? Why can't it sell, right? We can get in there and kind of help them because we know that business so well.
Right.
Now that you own the deal, now you can go change the lock tomorrow.
Right.
You don't have to wait on somebody to come over and they're there, it's rent. You don't have to wait on that stuff. You can go change the lock tomorrow. You can show it at 12 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You have complete control over that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to think what the objections are, right? Because I think for someone that's listening, it's like, okay, why is it your name, right? Because your name is on the deed, right?
We take it down in our company.
Right. And so, but I'm looking at that, and I can understand that concern, right, initially. But at the end of the day, though, what is the risk to the wholesaler when you do that?
There is no risk. They got an option agreement to buy it back from us.
Right.
At the price that they negotiated to get it from the A to B side.
Yeah.
Right. So there's no
risk.
risk here because they're legally protected by the documentation here,
Right.
which says that they can sell it and then the profit is split 80-20.
Right.
Right. But if they can't find a buyer, they just reverse back to you, and there's no legal expenses to have it revert back to you.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, it makes total sense to me. So then you guys have been doing this for, obviously this is newer,
Yeah.
right? But you and I have been texting back and forth,
Yeah.
right? And you share this with me. I didn't know that Chris was involved until very recently, right, when I went to the website. But you and I have been texting back and forth, and it's totally sound, right? Like what we're talking about here. So then what are some of the I guess, challenges you ran into that you weren't expecting from, like having other people like looking at this program?
So like, we really, I think we've been getting like an application every other day. Probably, that's pretty accurate. We've just finished another closing yesterday, the day before yesterday. So it's moving right now. The model's proven, it's moving, and we got more coming. Probably after this podcast, we're going to have more coming.
Yeah.
And one of the things that, as you start to do this, you start to figure out a few things, right? Well, one is like buying at the auction, like you may not be able to get title insurance.
Oh yeah.
We need we need title insurance. So there are some places that may offer it, and if that's the case, we need to understand who that is. But
also, this is an option if you're buying at the auction as well.
If you can get title insurance.
Title insurance. Yeah. So we need title insurance. There's some things that we need to make sure that the wholesaler, what kind of like, what is their plan? What are they going to do? What are they going to list this thing at? Are they going to list it for 5,000 over? Well, it's probably not going to make sense. Like we know a good deal, and we know kind of a okay deal, and then we know like a home run deal, right? So it's just more of the communication process. But I think those pitfalls are some of those things where it's like, we got to get title insurance. You're not really talking about that. That's like something that you kind of figure out as you're, you submit a deal, and all of a sudden, hey, this is at a foreclosure sale, and
yeah, well, it's I'm a quick start, right?
Yeah.
I imagine
I am too.
You're a
right.
very quick start, and so
Talking about the
Kobe test, yeah. So I remember like we expanded to Oklahoma, right? Like we were on TV,
I remember this.
right, in your market, and like
Where are you now, Steve?
we're not in Oklahoma. I can tell you that's for sure. Really, honestly, we're not even focused on real estate right now. We're really focused on our sales training component, right?
Yeah.
But I remember we expanded we went with Darren Dammy with Bullseye Branding. We were and I'm the face in Oklahoma City.
Yep.
And we started getting
I'm
deals.
going to buy your house.
Right. And we started getting deals. And I was like, hey, we should probably find a title company in Oklahoma. Right. We were advertising on TV before we even had a
That's hilarious.
This is the entrepreneur that like builds the parachute as he jumps off the cliff.
right.
Yeah.
Like, why have everything built out? Like, let's just go see if this thing
go.
works. And if this thing works, then we'll figure it out.
Right.
And of course, we were able to find title companies. But man, I remember like for like I want to say like 3 or 4 hours, like, oh, we should probably find a title company now. Like we've got a property on
We
contract.
need a title company. Yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we did a little bit of that at first. We got our first applications. We approved some applications, closed a couple deals, but we finally got we're getting the systems.
That system, that process in order. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. What other surprises have you found in doing this?
Surprises? Here's the interesting thing. Some people that we know have a lot of money and that are well funded, you would think that maybe necessarily wouldn't need this. They submitted and they done deals. And so that's really cool, because you may just like say, well, I got it. I can do it on my own, but do I want to?
Right.
Right. And that's great for us because we don't have to go out there and spend all the money on the marketing. Right.
Yeah.
And we're getting deals not only that are great deals, but they're already locked up.
Right.
Right. And so, so that's cool. It's surprising to me to see, just to see people that potentially have a lot of money that you and I would think like, wow, this person's pretty funded, but they still want to do deals with
I mean, as we're talking right now, I got a property that we're supposed to be closing this month. I was like, maybe I'll just have you do it.
There you go. See,
Right.
Time. And so, and I love that because it does give us another aha of like, hey, this isn't just for the beginner. It's for the experienced people too.
Right.
And it's really just for the person that says, what risk are you comfortable with, right? And we know though, as doing the wholesaling, and just investing, what a good deal is and what isn't a good deal. Right. 80 cents on the dollar, not so much a good deal. I don't care where you are right now, and especially in this market.
Yeah.
70 cents on the dollar, okay. 65 cents, we're getting there. 60%, now we're talking, right?
Right.
Anything under that, pretty much you've got a pretty good deal probably on your hands. But you need to understand what that looks like, right? And so we can underwrite those deals fairly quickly and make sure that you're not going to get into a situation where you have to give it up, because after 90 days, to be very clear, if you haven't done that deal, we're done. We still can do deals with another deal, but we're taking that deal because we got to dispo it. We got to get the money back.
Right. Absolutely. So, go ahead.
I just like this because like I mean, we've all been around the real estate industry, and we've seen, some great journeys. One of my favorite journeys is Luke Rodvald used to work for Brent Daniels, right?
Yeah.
He was just a cold caller.
Fantastic, dude.
That's all he was a cold caller. And now you see his journey, but we're making this program makes whoever takes whatever guy's class, it gives them an opportunity to have the same journey that, Luke did. But if he's in South Carolina, he's stuck, right? Unless he can, then, he could take the class and he's going to have to find private lenders and, or he can just come to us and we're his co-wholesale partner.
Yeah, it's pretty phenomenal. Yeah. So you were one of the originals in Investor Lift.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you know how to underwrite nationwide because you've been doing PPC with Sean Terry, right? Nationwide.
Yeah. Well, he's the OG for sure, but I've learned some things from him. Yeah.
Yeah.
We definitely learned our national model from Sean. Great dude. Love Sean.
How many markets have you been in?
I've been in lots of markets pre-financial crisis. So like we were in Las Vegas and Denver, Utah, Texas, but just now Arizona and Florida.
Right. So I'm curious as far as the underwriting goes, because we went the nationwide model for a second.
Yeah, it's not easy.
It was not a pleasant experience. I know it can be done.
Lost money the first 6 months out of it.
But it was not a pleasant experience.
Right.
So talk to me about underwriting. Right? I got a deal in North Dakota.
We don't service it right now.
Okay.
But Tennessee, let's just say, or Georgia.
Let's say I have a property in, I'm trying to think of like some of the rural areas. Like I was like Gunstock, Texas. Just these ridiculous names.
Not in Texas yet. It's coming.
But like, how are you guys underwriting these deals effectively? Because like, there are challenges with doing nationwide underwriting, right? Nationwide wholesaling. You guys will be doing nationwide underwriting to protect yourselves, right, and your partners. How are you guys underwriting nationally?
You spent countless weeks going back and forth with a homeowner only to lose a deal because the seller changed their mind, another wholesaler made an unreasonable offer, or what the seller needs from the sale, you just can't pay. Now imagine you've got the ultimate control on a property that you just locked up, meaning you're on title and every decision has to go through you, eliminating virtually every external threat. That's why the installment method was created. Through installment payments, you have full control of the property as your name is now on the title. Any decision the seller wants to make now has to be approved by you. No longer can they pull out equity, go with another buyer, or change their mind. Imagine combining the best of creative finance with the flexibility of marketing the property on the MLS to collect the most amount of revenue possible, all while having total control of the property. This is just the tip of the iceberg. The concept here is simple, but implementing is challenging. So visit wholesale2024.com to learn more so that you'll never have another deal blow up.
Well, I think it's just, I'm obviously looking at comps, and if I don't have comps, I'm probably just going to say no. It's just probably, I'm more of like, I'd rather make no money than lose money. That's always just been kind of my theory. And
there's that Warren Buffett's rule, right? Rule number one is don't lose money.
Yeah. So
I think you've lost like less than 200,000 in 10 years or something on your deals.
Yeah, and it's obviously I had the financial crisis, but since 2008, my hard money company has lost 27,000 on one and 112,000 on another.
That's really impressive.
And that's it.
That's impressive.
That's really impressive given the volume. Right?
So
I've heard way worse.
And how many
numbers.
loans do you think that went through there?
Oh, that's 300 or 400 a year. So, but I could probably give you the addresses of those two houses. I know exactly where. One guy ended up on American Greed. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So I'm guessing it was like Scott something, right?
Oh, Lord.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Very, very, very sad story. So,
but Chris, to answer, Chris is obviously extremely versed in underwriting, not just in Arizona, but Florida and a few other places. We've got some other. We got a strategic partner that we're working with too. That's also done all kinds of deals in other states. So they're also putting some eyeballs on it too for us.
Yeah.
To be able to make sure that we're not doing something we shouldn't.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. So, any questions I haven't asked you about takedown funding that I should have asked?
don't know. I'm just excited about the opportunity.
I'm excited. You know, I want to make sure I convey this. Some people that are listening to this, they may say, I don't need it. I'm not in South Carolina. I'm not in Pennsylvania. I'm not in Oregon right now. You can actually go to prison over wholesaling. Do you know that?
Yeah, you can go to prison for wholesaling, but you can sell as many drugs as you want.
As you want. Yeah, totally you want. Yeah.
Unlimited,
right? Crazy. Oregon, crazy. Shout out to Joe Taylor, my good friend out there. But
I sent him so many ridiculous articles about
Dude,
Portland.
He's always sending me memes. I love Joe. But, you know, at the end of the day, in Washington, all these places, you're starting to see the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
Okay? I saw the writing on the wall on short sales during transactional funding. That is where I see things going. And you may say, I don't need it. I can do my deals right now. I'm not having any problems. I'm you know, I live in, you know, New York. And I'm just still doing my deals. I understand that, but don't be late to the game. It's not where the puck is, it's where the puck's going.
Right.
Anytime in my life that I've ever had success on things, plasma TVs, one of them, when they first came out, got in front of them, made money on it, sold it. Because I knew when I saw Sam's started to come out with these plasma TVs, there's no way I'm going to compete with Sam's. No way. And I need to get out of it. So it's a good time to get out of it, right? There are these times where these things start and then they grow really quickly, right? And I believe that we're in a place right now that takedown funding is going to be an actual new category of lending. And if you aren't paying attention to that right now, you don't want to be in, all of a sudden get a letter, which is what happened in South Carolina. They just get a letter and an email that says, oh, by the way, you can no longer do this. And now you're stuck. Versus, let's build the relationship now. Right? Let's see what deals you have, right? And let's see if it makes sense, and at least build that relationship now where if something does happen, which I do believe, and we believe it's going to happen with copy legislation, you're prepared. You're not late to the game. You already are knowing where the puck's going.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, if nothing else, just kind of compare, right? Like if you have a private money lender or a hard money lender, just compare where you would sit with this option versus your existing option. Because like I said, like right now we're doing the math. I'm doing the math in my head as we're talking. It's like, I might just have Chris look at this one. Because I got a property in Garfield Historic District, right? I want to have you take a look at that one.
There you go.
So how does someone get to find out more? Where do they go?
Just takedownfunding.com. Yeah.
Simple.
Takedownfunding.com.
Fill out the application. Obviously, once you get the deal, just fill out the application.
You find it, we fund it.
Yeah. Simple. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you guys very much for coming on.
Thank you.
Any last messages you want to leave all the listeners with?
Well, just for our Arizona folks, you know, I'm obviously, you know, when he reached out, you know, and there's been some people talking about what's going to happen in Arizona. So I decided, like, let's not guess. Let's just ask. So on using the Phoenix REIA platform, kind of a neutral platform, I got Susan coming to Scottsdale Community College with 200 people from 5 to 7 on September 10th. And Fidelity Title's going to MC it. And we're going to ask, like, what's coming there? What's your agenda? Are you going to try to outlaw it? Are you going to try to license us all? Because if I need to be the first one in the 90-hour class again, I guess I got to go to 90-hour class again, right?
Susan.
I don't know her last name. What's that?
We're talking about the commissioner?
Yeah, the commissioner.
Oh, so you got her to come in?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, I mean, just
she's elusive. I've heard some people trying to get hold of her. So
yeah, no, I used
Chris knows everyone.
Fidelity. I just called up the president of Fidelity. I'm like,
yeah, just call it the president of Fidelity.
I'm just like, hey, like, I mean, I just want to play by the rules, right? But I just want to know what the rules are. And so just tell me what the rules are. I'm like, so why don't, I mean, if I call, they're not going to answer me. So Fidelity Title, why don't you call? And Phoenix REIA will put on the venue and we'll sponsor the thing. And just, you know, now the questions it's not an open forum question.
Yeah.
All the questions were approved by her. But it's still, I mean, there's questions like, are you going to make us get licensed? Are you going to try to, you know, are you going to make us take it down? Are novations going to still be legal? Like, do you have anything about subject 2 coming down the pipe? Like, what's happening in our industry. So I think that should be
That'd be
fun.
great. You said September
10th
10th.
at Scottsdale Community College.
Trying to think if I'm going to be anywhere September 10th, because I want to be there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what CG is.
CG is, I think it's around the same time. I think it's the week. Family Mastermind is the 13th and 15th, or 23rd, 25th. So I think CG is the week before that. So we should be fine.
Okay.
But yeah, I might want to drop by and check that out because she's actually cost me a lot of money. our commissioner, right? So had nothing to do with wholesaling. Had to do with my title company, and we had some challenges with the title company, so I had to unwind it because of her. So
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's
six figures a year, like whatever.
But that's kind of the whole, and I've heard stories like that, and I've heard wholesale stories, and it's so I was just kind of like, let's not guess, let's just ask.
No, I think that's awesome. So everyone that's interested, that's in the Phoenix market, Phoenix REIA.
Yeah, Phoenix REIA. We're just putting it on, but Fidelity Title's gonna MC it. She's coming in. Obviously, it's 10 to 12 questions, but like the questions I talked about, and so it's not just like everybody in the room can answer, but it's real questions about like what's her agenda and like what's it going to look like. So if I need to go get licensed, I mean I have to go back to school for 90 hours.
Well, your sister's still licensed.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I mean, send that to me. I want to promote that, right? So I want to promote that on my platform because that's directly impacts us.
Right.
And man, if she gets me twice, I'm gonna be really pissed. But that's a whole nother story.
6 figures wasn't enough.
Yeah, 6 figures a year is not enough. Yeah, I haven't really talked about that publicly, but I had to unwind my title company. Like that sucked, right? Because her specifically.
Oh my goodness.
That's what happens when you have a Democrat governor elect. Whatever. Anyway, I don't want to rant.
Steve.
Any last thoughts you want to leave everyone with?
Sure. I'm always excited about entrepreneurs just, making stuff happen, and one of the things that's been impressed about Chris is that like I shared some ideas with him and he could have been like, everybody shares ideas with me, which I'm sure he does. But he was like, this is a great idea. Let's make it happen, and that's where oftentimes you have to jump before necessarily you see what's on the other side.
Right.
What I found is that whenever you do that, most of the time, you find yourself that everything you've ever wanted is on the other side of fear. So I would just encourage people to overcome their fears by basically doing the thing that scares them the most.
Right.
I remember when I jumped out of an airplane, I was scared of heights, absolutely scared of heights. And I have this on video, and I'm literally shaking to the point when they open the window. If you ever went skydiving and they open the door and you hear the wind, you literally feel like you're gonna shit your hand, like you're gonna crap, right? But then when you jump out, and it's like so calm and peaceful, like floating down, like all the fear just goes away. And I learned like the snaps in your brain change. That whenever you overcome death, it changes now. So like now you feel like you jump that airplane, you can overcome anything.
Yeah.
And so maybe it's not having to do with necessarily with real estate, Steve, but it's just people need some encouragement right now. Man, it's tough out there right now.
It is
I was talking to investors that have been in the game for a long time, and they're getting hammered. Not just inflation, because potato chips now are $2, $5 instead of $2, or Cokes or whatever you're thinking about with the groceries. But like just everything in general right now is your rates have quadrupled, since they've been in COVID. It's just hard times right now. And like if you have an idea and you think it's going to potentially work out, man, don't like die with that idea. You know what I mean? Take action on it, make something happen. On the other side of fear is everything you ever wanted in your life. And yeah, I just want to encourage that person that maybe just be like man, it's tough right now. Takedown funding is for me like a way to be able to offer somebody something that maybe doesn't have a lot of money.
Right.
These wholesalers don't necessarily they spend a lot of money on marketing, right? Don't lose the deal. If you got a good deal, don't lose the deal just because you think, well, I don't want to give up a couple of points and 20% of my deal. Like, let's talk about it. If it makes sense, let's do it.
Perfect. Makes total sense. Thank you guys again for coming on. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys next time.
Shout out to Steve Trang. Jump on the Steve Trang. Disruptors.